Hey guys, this is Bound to Divide here and welcome to the course. In this course we're doing a start to finish melodic house track similar to the style of my existing track Tears, which is on Colorize. And if you wanted to follow along, you'll have access to the project file, the finished project file, as well as all the samples that I'm going to be using, which should be in your downloads. And you'll also have access to the remix stems. Okay, so that's all. Hope you enjoy the course. Okay, so starting off with the drums, let's start at the top here with the kick drum. So I'm just going to show you quickly what it is. We're using kick 2 and we're using a pack from Sonic Academy called Melodic Techno. I think that's volume 18. And the kick name here is H-Loot Disco Max, but I've tweaked it a bit. So let me just create a new channel and then we'll recreate this kick drum. So how I like to do my kicks is with MIDI, and it makes sense with kick 2 to use MIDI because that's how it works. But generally, even if I'm working with a sample, I'll use MIDI. I think it's just you have so much more control and it's so much faster to work like that. So I'm going to just put a note here at C3, bring up the velocity, and I'll bring this down, this loop race, so that quick and easy to just drag it out. And then we'll grab kick 2. And then we want to go to our pack here. And what is the name of the pack again? H-Loot Disco Max, that's the one. So it's probably going to sound a bit different to how this sounds. So what I wanted to do here, I just felt like the tail of the sub was a bit too long. And so I shortened that a bit. And so if we go here, I'll just put them side by side so that we can see exactly what I did. Here you can see I also changed the pitch decay. So if you look at the pitch here, look at this line. The original has this little dip in there. I think this is probably a recreation of another kick, so that's why they've gone and done that kind of little weird dip. But I just smoothed that out. You know, I like my kick drums to have a nice smooth pitch curve. That way you get like a kick that cuts through like all those low mids. So all we need to do here is just, we can just bring that up a little bit here. And it looks like I brought this up to like 180 hertz or something. 185. Oh, bring that one down to 131 over there. The length is another thing that I changed. Oh yeah, you can also see this is at a 155 hertz. So that is kind of, matching there. See a comparison. So yeah, let's go back into the amp here. Have a look at that. So I just shortened the kick drum a bit. Here you can see the shape has changed. So let's just bring this node up here, up to 95, around there. And then we're going to just use that bottom one to shorten it even more. And bring that down a bit. Bring this one in. And then we kind of shortened it so we don't have that long subby tail. And the reason why I want to do that is because the sub that we have is so like long and sustained, and it's got this big respace. The long kick drum doesn't really work. Long kick drums are great if you have this, maybe like a kick tom groove and not much other bass happening. Then you want your kick to kind of take over the sub, but in this case, not. So it's almost there. The last thing was just a bit of EQ. So I'll just copy that EQ over and show you. So it's the second point here, I'm doing minus 7.56 dB, and it's at 464 Hertz. And then a little bit here off the top end. And just to hear what that's doing, if I turn this off, it's just taking out some of that like mid-range click, the boxiness over there. Okay, and then the volume here I have it set to minus 4.3. And so that is the kick drum. I'm going to now just remove this one because I've already got that over there. And actually I'll leave it in so I know which channels I've done. I don't have to go back. And then at the end I'll delete them. So the next one is this dark clap. And so like in the reference we had this kind of dark percussive wood blocky sounding clap. That's what I did here. And this is a pretty easy thing to create. What we're using here is a clap from this pack here. This Sonic Academy Melodic House and Techno DNA sample pack. And there are, in the drum loops, there's a clap loop. It is drum loops 13, so if you scroll down to 13 here, which is just sounds like a 909 clap to me. But I did change it slightly. So what you'll notice if we zoom in and compare, this one that I have only has the tail. So what I did was I just zoomed in, just turn off warping here, and just brought this playhead all the way down to that transient, the last transient in the clap. And then we have this, we can just chop it out and move it over here and delete the rest of that. And then we have this, but it doesn't sound like this. And the easy way to do that is to just use an EQ, and we low pass it and bring up some resonance around here. And it can drastically change the vibe of the clap depending on where you put it. I think I also pitched this down. Yeah, down -6. So if we go down here, -6, gets a lot deeper. And the actual EQ curve that I made, let's copy that one and I'll just put it here and then show you. So if we take this point here and just put it on the exact numbers, which is 550 Hertz, and the gain, wait, that's point number 3. That it wasn't the low pass. The low pass, number 8, is actually at 899 Hertz, 899. And the Q is at 1.15. There we go. And then we need point number 3 here. Let's just choose that one. Set that at 550. And then the gain would have to be up 8.55. There we go. So without, with, and in context, if we just compare without and with, it works, it sounds nice, but that gives it this dark vibe that we're going for. And then I just took this and duplicated it. All the way across. In fact, the best way to do this, I'm kind of being silly here, is to loop. We could consolidate this, maybe this entire section here. Hit Control J and consolidate that, and then click on the loop brace here. and then drag it out. And now you don't have to sit there like a doofus endlessly copy pasting. Let's just set the volume here, minus 0.6. Okay, and then the next element is this Offbeat Hi-Hat. So I made this up of a few layers. Same sample pack here, and you go into the one shots. Let's just make a new channel. And double click here, create a MIDI block. And we're going to put some MIDI here at C3. And then loop braces on, we can just drag it all the way across again. And here we go, we need to find these 3 samples, so I'm just going to open this up. We got hat 15, hat 8, and hat 5. So hat 15, hat 8. So you'll hear they all have different characteristics. I want this hat 5 because it's kind of like your typical 909 hi-hat. It has a characteristic that when you use these drum sounds, they're kind of familiar to the ear. So I always like to have them there in some way. Also, it's just a great hi-hat. It's really wide and thick. And then 8 has a bit of width to it and that nice like hissy high end. And then, what was the other one? This one, 15. I like that because it's got that like almost like percussive hit underneath it, which gives it a bit of weight. And how I lay these together, just choose one of them, so 15 here, and then click on the sampler, simpler, and hit Control G, and then open up this chain here. And then we can drag the other ones in. There's 8, and then 5. And now we kind of got to mix them in different amounts and tweak all these envelopes to get it sounding the same. So let's have a look at what we did here. 15 is kind of untouched. Everything's in its standard amount. Volume's at minus 9.71. Let's just adjust that. It's 9.71. And if we hear that in context, it's nice, but it's kind of, it's lacking all the beef of the other hi-hat compared to. So yeah, let's go back in here and have a look at what else we got. We got hat 8, and you'll see some tweaks here to the envelope. So I've added a bit of release and just brought down the sustain to minus 20. So that's hat 8. Let's turn it on. So we brought up the release here to around 900. It's not super important that we get that perfect. And the sustain's at minus 20. So it just brightens up the hi-hat a bit more. And then we have hat 5. And the sustain's at minus 24. Decay is short and snappy, and the release is long. So we got 318, minus 24, and 832. So decay is at 318, minus 24. And the release was up. So if I bring up that decay, you can hear it starting to cut through a bit more. And we just compare it to this one. The volume here I have at minus 3.7. But it might be nice to let it through a little bit more. Let's see how it sounds. I'm not going to, if during this course I feel like doing something different to what I did previously sounds better, I will probably do it. the advantage of coming back with a fresh ear. Let's just hear how it sounds if I play with this decay. I actually quite like it at 579. Let's also hear if we bring up the sustain. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's just turn back on the original and compare. Yeah, I like that one more, I think, so we'll go with that one. And then the next up is the 16th hi-hat. Let's make a new channel here. And I've got an instrument rack open here, but we don't actually need it open because there's only one layer. So let's just have a look at this one layer. And what we're using here is hat 4. And so I can just double click on that. And then the MIDI you'll see is just straight 16th notes. Just place 4 of those and then loop it and drag it out. That's at -9. But if we compare these, this one sounds way more alive, it's snappier, and it's got a lot more like subtle movement in it. So we can match that. And how I did that was, if we have a look here, to make it snappy, I brought down the decay and the sustain and the release. And then to add a bit of life to it, I used this sample and hold LFO, which basically is a random LFO. It generates random values. Bring down the hertz here so that it stays on that value for a longer time. And so what happens is each time the MIDI note is triggered, there's a random value generated. And then we can assign that random value to the pitch and the pan. And that way each hit is slightly different pitch and lands in a different place in the stereo field. And then you get a more alive kind of hi-hat loop. So let's go and do that here. Firstly, we're going to bring down the sustain, decay, and we get that nice clicky kind of hat. And then we go here, turn this down. Pitch was at like 5%. And then the pan, I think I had it at like 18%. And I think just the envelope I need to get right, which was 122 minus 25. Decay here, 122 minus 25. I'm not sure why it's louder in this one. It's the release. 35. Oh. No, was that like 30 something? Just check the volume. No, it might be the velocity. Velocity is at 60 here. Velocity is also at 60. Let's see what the difference could be. Oh, oops. Let's go here and check the gain. Is that 0? Gain 0. Yeah, I'm not too sure why, but anyway, we can just turn it down so it's the same volume. Yeah, you just look at the meters and then AB between them. Okay, we went down to minus 15.7. Okay, and then next up we have some top loops. Okay, so these are pretty much just drag and drop. We got this one 125.01 perk, so that'll be in the melodic loops section. sorry, not melodic, drum loops. That's 01 perk, this one. And all I did was just no processing, just turned it down to minus 19.7. So you can do that. And top loop 2. Again, no processing on this one. These ones just worked straight out of the box. And that is under the hats, 03 hats. So if you go here, you'll see it, 03 hats. And then set that to minus 13.4. And then this one is, it says hats, but to me it sounds like a shaker, so I just call it shaker. And that is 15. Okay, and that's set at minus 18.3. I think that one I slightly adjusted here. You'll see I set the warp mode here to beats and then brought it down to 51, and that's going to make it a little snappier. If we just compare that with that, it just gets a bit tighter, and you can exaggerate it if you can't really hear it. Super tight, super loose, in the middle. Okay, so that is all of our drums done, and now I'm just going to remove the other channels. I think we said we were going to go with this one that I recreated, so let's call that one Offbeat, and delete this one, delete that one, and that one. And I'm just going to make them all the same color. I like to keep all my drums the same color so they're easy to find. Okay. And so all the drums together sounds like this. Pretty simple drum loop, but yeah, later on when we make our second drop, I might add more to it, some more like percussion. Might try out a low tom or something. So next up we're going to get into all the musical elements.